Panama is picking up the pieces after death and destruction come ashore with Hurricane Eta. And now another hurricane's taking aim at the country. We'll talk about it on today's Hot Zone.
This is the Hot Zone. Engaging with the news in a whole new way, international war correspondent Chuck Holton brings insight into areas of crisis and lets you help those affected.
Chuck Holton here. Back on the 31st of October, Hurricane Eta became the 12th hurricane of the season. And they're, as you know, running out of names for these things now. So I don't know where they got Eta from, but suffice it to say, this thing really packed a punch in a rare track across Central America. So now Honduras, Mexico, down all the way to Nicaragua and El Salvador and Panama are picking up the pieces from this hurricane. And it actually caused quite a bit of flooding and death in the sort of, I guess that'd be the western part of Panama in Chiriquí, up near the Costa Rican border. There were some landslides up there and roads got washed out and flooding took place and a lot of people had to be rescued. The death toll right now stands at 17 with 62 people still missing. That's just in Panama. In Guatemala, 150 people were killed. People died in Honduras. Mexico has seen over 20 people died and bridges washed out. A lot of people had to be rescued. They've still got tens of thousands of people in shelters who have lost their homes because of this storm. And so, you know, we were kind of, I don't know, distracted by the election and all the craziness going on there. Meanwhile, down in Panama and all up through Central America, a lot of people are hurting. And, you know, it's really cool to see the United States military step in and help when people are in dire straits. So there's about 60-something troops on the ground. They came from Soto Cano Air Base in San Pedro Sula, Honduras. And we've had a presence there for like 40 years. But this is a small unit. A lot of them are guardsmen, things like that deploy down there. And I've been to that base. It's very low key. We do a lot of drug interdiction, signals intelligence, things like that down there. But when a hurricane like this comes ashore, they mobilized and put them on 24-hour readiness, and they launched out and went and rescued a whole bunch of people. Here's some footage of what that looks like. Now, it's kind of strange for Panama to get hit by a hurricane because if you look at a map, the northern part of South America actually shields Panama from the worst of those hurricanes because of the way that they track. So it sort of blocks the hurricanes from Panama. But what happened in the Chiriquí region of western Panama was that they got sort of the outer bands of this. And what that did is it dumped about a foot of rain in just a very short period of time. Now, Panama is used to getting a lot of rain, and the topography is sort of, adapted to that. Very often at our home in Panama, they measure rain in terms of feet and not inches. But to get that much rain along with wind in the middle of an already rainy season meant that it washed out all of the rivers in that part of the country are overflowing their banks, are washing out roads and bridges. Again, it's really the mudslides that are the biggest concern, because when you get that much rain, it just gets to the point where the ground just cannot hold it anymore. And the ground just turns to jelly and it just sloughs off. We actually saw a mudslide in our little town of El Valle de Anton, and we're not in a place that usually gets a lot of mudslides, but in this case we did, and it blocked off one old part of our town called Mato Alugado. When I just went down to Panama, and this comes on the heels of 7 months of really extreme lockdown. One of the reasons I've been not in Panama since May is because Panama locked down on the 23rd of March and went into it. What they said was going to be a 30-day lockdown. Well, then they extended it another 30 days, and they extended it another 30 days. This was not your typical lockdown. We've talked a lot about it, but if you're a new viewer, you might not have seen those episodes of the show where we were locked down in Panama, and you literally couldn't leave your house. You get 1 hour a day to go out and go grocery shopping. 1 hour a day, depending on if you're male or female. Women get Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Men get Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday and Sunday. Nobody can go out, and you can only go out based on the last number of your passport or your driver's license. So you cannot go for a walk. You can't go out, go to work or anything like that. Everything was closed except the grocery stores and the pharmacies. Even the hardware stores were closed. So nobody was working. And one of the reasons why we moved to Panama back in 2007, 2008, one of the reasons, that was the first time we were there. We came back in 2012. And one of the reasons we chose Panama is because I noticed that people live in very tight-knit family communities. They have lots of extended family in, close proximity to where they live. So they can help each other out. They all grow basically what they need to survive in their front yard. They have a few chickens running around. They don't get a lot of protein. It's not maybe the greatest diet, but it is a year-round growing season, so you can grow things all year round, and all you need is a few weeks to get some food on the table if you are starting from scratch. So I kind of got the feeling that accompanied with the fact that they don't have any natural predators, Panama doesn't, meaning their neighbors don't want to take them over. Costa Rica is a pacifist country. They are separated from Colombia by the Darien Gap, and Panama doesn't even have a standing military anymore. And so they're also a very pacifistic people. And so I looked at that and said, man, if the whole world fell apart, Panama would be a good place to be, because the people here would hardly notice. They just keep right on rocking, growing their own food, trading with their neighbors, and it's very peaceful and that sort of thing. So that is, in fact, what happened. Now, the government of Panama was in a lot better shape financially than our government was. They actually had a emergency fund set up to the tune of like $500 million. So they dipped into that, and they started sending out vouchers for groceries or bags of food or things like that to people around the country. And people have been surviving by and large. So on my trip down there this week, over the weekend, I just ran down there, take care of a couple things, check out, make sure that our house is okay, things like that, and check on our monkeys. And so the poor little Mona, the older monkey, she's 11 years old, she was not doing too hot. She had gotten an injury on her tail that got infected, and she was in bad shape. Mona's feeling a lot better, I think. Yeah, you making your little noises? Who's that? Who's that? She likes to be up high. She's in bad shape. I was afraid she was going to die. So we got some antibiotics in her, and she's doing a lot better. So in the process of checking on things, it was interesting to see that now, I told you, we did 10 weeks of this ultra extreme lockdown. Can't leave your house. Can't go for a walk. Panama stayed on that after we left. We finally called the embassy and said, get us out of here, and flew back to the States in May. Panama stayed on that lockdown for 7 months. And if you can imagine what we're looking at in America right now with a Biden presidency saying that they're going to call for a 6-week lockdown, they probably have blood running in the streets if they try that. They're going to call for a national mask mandate. I can guarantee you a lot of people are going to flaunt that, and I might be one of them. But think about in Panama, which is not a politically divided country. It's a very homogenous country. The people are, by and large, trust what the government tells them, and they are not very, they don't get a lot of education about health. So they're not very tuned in on, how viruses work, and all that kind of stuff. And so they're very, very afraid of this virus. So there's a national mask mandate in Panama. To get into Panama, I had to have a negative COVID test, and then had to show that at immigration when I got there. And you have to wear a mask anywhere outside your own dwelling. Even if you're in your front yard, even if you're in your car with the windows rolled up, you've got to wear a mask. Now imagine what this does to a country who got a fair bit of its GDP from tourism. I'm thinking maybe about 30% of its total GDP was directly or indirectly related to tourism. No tourists. The only tourists that are in that country right now are a few intrepid Russians who, for some reason, decided to go on vacation there. But the tourism industry is absolutely wiped out in Panama. Just wiped out. My company, my tour company, we closed it. It is going to take years for the tourism industry to recover in Panama. Part of the reason is because they are so absolutely freaked out about this virus. And so bottom line is, I stayed there a couple of days. I can't live in a place where you can't leave your house and where you have to ride around in your car with your windows rolled up and a mask on. So we're going to have to hope and pray that this thing finally, we get a vaccine or it works its way through in order for us to be able to go back to Panama. So pray about that. That's a pretty big deal. I mean, we love Panama. We love the people. We love the culture. We love the country. We love our little town and our home there. And we don't have any plans to move back to the United States for good. And especially if we get a Biden presidency, I'm going to be really glad to have a place in Panama. But in the short run, it's still pretty difficult down there, and there's a lot of people hurting, and there will be for some time to come. But thank heaven that Panamanians are so self-reliant that they can grow their own food and trade with their neighbors, and they don't expect the government to fix everything. There are not a bevy of social programs that people can rely on, so people are used to just taking care of things themselves, between them and their family and their church. And that's kind of how it ought to be. So that's all I've got for today. There's another hurricane that is now taking aim at the same region that may hit Honduras, Nicaragua, and all of Central America again. And this is called, I think, Epsilon or something. I don't know. But I'm losing track of the names of these hurricanes. Let's hope and pray that we don't have more landslides, that more people don't need rescuing, because the limited rescue system they have down there in Central America is already stretched to the breaking point. So it could really cause a lot more chaos, death, and destruction. And I would like to go down there and report on it, but I probably won't. I'm going to try and stay home for the next month or so and work on my next book, which I'll tell you more about later. And so thanks for watching The Hot Zone. I appreciate it. We've got more good content coming. And check out my fundraiser for a documentary, full-length documentary about the crisis in Armenia. If you've been watching the show, you've seen lots and lots about the tragedy that's happening in Armenia right now. And I'd like to do a full-length documentary, but well, we need funding to do that, and quite a bit of funding actually. So if you feel so inclined, go check it out. You can PayPal money to us at paypal.me/EVMT, or you can go to patreon.com/hotzone and subscribe. And so please do. We'll see it. I'm Chuck Holton.
The Hot Zone is produced by Amy Holton and Livefire Media. Copyright 2019.